conversation today is all about KiwiSaver, and it comes from the discussion and the research that the FSC Research Committee's now been doing for the best part of 15 months. We did 3 pieces of research, and as we've been engaging with politicians on all sides of the House, and particularly in the last 12 months, we're sitting around with Minister Farfoy talking about KiwiSaver, both in the context of long-term savings, but also in the context of the KiwiSaver bill. And what became really clear is there's a real opportunity to help shape the future, help educate, and help put a stake in the ground around recommendations. So the 3 research pieces that we did were very much insight papers, tapping into political issues initially for last year's conference. Then we wanted to understand where did older New Zealanders see KiwiSaver fitting in their lives, and the most recent research was looking at where do younger New Zealanders fit in their lives. So Minister Farfoy put out the challenge and he said, what we're really interested in is what are your recommendations, and so today is a little discussion about that. I really want to thank the support of TL and Ryan and Paul in particular for supporting us on this journey. And so in your backpacks or tote bags, you've hopefully seen a copy of this. And for those of you in the savings and KiwiSaver space, commend a good read, because there's some very clear discussion. In a couple of weeks' time, we actually have a CEO roundtable with members of the community with Minister Farfoy. And in talking with him last night, it was look, just send me a bit of a discussion point, and certainly the recommendations are going to be part of that. So those were the 3 research papers that we put out. You can find them on the website. Again, they're a pretty interesting read. And a little like we saw yesterday morning, we took to the streets both last year and this year to try and understand what's the pulse of New Zealand in relation to KiwiSaver. So we'll just have a very quick listen.
Are you in KiwiSaver?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
For about 5 years.
Mum just told me to do it, so I just did it, I guess.
Oh, I still collect $500 a year for nothing.
How about home ownership? Have you got your own house?
I don't have at the moment. Should have bought it 10 years ago already.
When will you have enough to buy your first home?
Within the next year or 2.
Hopefully next 2 years' time.
Maybe in 10 years' time, I'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm just into the first home buyers grant.
We think about retirement more than we think about mortgages.
Is KiwiSaver enough to live off?
For me, probably not.
Who knows? I guess the issue is what's enough.
No, I need to put more.
You know, until you're 65, if you're full-time employee, you've been working, yep, I think should be enough.
We started thinking about it from our mid-20s, myself and a lot of my friends and acquaintances.
No, so I have another savings, which is bigger than KiwiSaver.
And I went into one of the more aggressive funds, so I understand it's come with risks, but I feel like I've got to make up some ground. I kind of regret not entering earlier.
Will you have enough in KiwiSaver for your retirement?
No, certainly not.
Superannuation, it's not that enough.
Will that be the very plan that you rely on to see you through retirement?
No, it'll be a combination of, as a person that lives in Auckland, of probably liquidating our house, moving to somewhere more affordable, and putting the 2 together.
So you can see into those comments and comments that were on the video yesterday, just some of the themes that are coming through. And if we just head into the 4 recommendations, so all of this research was distilled into 4 key recommendations. The first one is around contribution rates. This conversation that's been kind of raging as a subtext around it's only about fees. When you unpack it, it is about fees, but it's also about what you put in, it's about where you invest, it's about what your risk profile is, it's about the lump sums that you add in, it's about your asset allocation. All of those things are part of the levers that go into, well, what does the end look like? And so driving in terms of recommendations, very clear opportunities for people to add and continue to add and step up in a very clear way is very clearly one of the recommendations. And so very heartening to see a number of the recommendations that the CFFC and Diane and her team have put up are starting to get accepted as this debate kind of continues on, because after 11 years of KiwiSaver and $50 billion in the collective tin, we're in a good spot. But there's so much more that we can do. So that was recommendation 1. Recommendation 2 was about taking control. And this played into a couple of things. So part of it was about how do we have a seamless bipartisan KiwiSaver strategy that's here for the long term, and that really sits into the political discussion. And then taking control is how do members in KiwiSaver kind of take control of their KiwiSaver. And the awards last night, in many ways, with member statements and so on, play into that conversation, because the more you know, the more you engage, the more you're educated, the more you're actively engaged. Taking control becomes the theme. So that control piece sits in a couple of different areas. Recommendation 3 was around getting the most out of KiwiSaver. So, there's a lot of the technical minutiae details in here, but suffice to say, and you heard it really eloquently from the chap on the street there, default settings in conservative funds that are roughly 80-20s for, my young son who's 17 and had his first corner store job. What's the term of his contribution and when's it going to materialise? So it's about setting fit-for-purpose investments based on where people are at in their lives, and the default at conservative clearly doesn't work. There's a whole bunch of other things in there that I commend into the report that you have a clearer look at. And the fourth piece is advice, and again, it kind of plays through. What was interesting in the second report, which was around older New Zealanders, when you're 5 years out from retirement, actually that's not the time to start thinking about your retirement or planning for it. It starts well before that. And so the question is, what are the triggers for those decisions? Are they life stage decisions? Are they advice decisions? Are they advice through robo and platforms and gamification like we saw with Banker yesterday? Are they sitting in front of people because you've just got an inheritance and you want to start to set up? Because the default position, particularly for audiences that are sitting in high value real estate assets, sell the city and buy the beach, or sell the city and buy the country. Whilst that's a tenable option, it's kind of a default, well, that's what we've got to do if we want to fund, because NZ Super gives you this much, but if you're used to living on that much, where's the difference going to come from? And so this debate becomes a really interesting one. This research becomes really interesting. I commend it to you. It's going to be a scene setter for our ongoing discussions in a political sense and an advocacy sense. And again, thank you to the Research Committee, thank you to the Investment Committee, thank you to EL, and back to Yvonne.